What is going on, Bucs fans? Back here at the Pirate Parlay podcast. I'm your host, JC Allen, here on the Sick Podcast Network. As always, we are in pod number 2 of the week, back to 2-a-days. We're going to do this one live here, and we've got a special guest in to talk some Commanders football when this Bucs matchup, week 1, Bucs versus Commanders, 4:25, Raymond James Stadium to kick off. So we'll get some behind enemy lines insight. Boots on the ground. Our next guest, he's there every single day at practice. So he's got all the ins and outs about what's really going on with this Commanders team. Excited to have him on. And we'll bring him on right after the break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
Welcome back to the Pirate Parlay podcast here on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm your host, JC Allen. As always, make sure you guys are turn on the reminders, subscribing, please. Do all that. Helps us get in front of more Bucs fans and spread the word about this awesome pod we have going on here. Super excited to bring in my next guest. Please, if you guys are watching on Twitter, on live, feel free to jump in the comments. We'll get your questions. What are your score predictions? What are your thoughts? Feel free to chime in and we'll get you guys up here. But our next guest here on this show, Behind Enemy Lines, we've got the one and only David Harrison. You might know him from Locked On Bucs. You might know him from Locked On Commanders. You might know him from Bucs Game Day. You might know him from Commanders Game Day. He's everywhere, all over the place. And what a better guest to have on this week than a guy who actually covers both of these teams, especially one who's boots on the ground and up in Washington area, because they're not really in Washington, D.C., but none other than David Harrison. My man, how are we doing today?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. Just gonna keep doing
man,
that.
Football's back. Let's do it.
We're back. Hell of a game last night. Toe tapping, so close to giving us an overtime game to start. Plenty of missed opportunities by Lamar Jackson too. Those first 2 plays. I mean, missed likely than missed Flowers. But we're not talking about the Ravens and Chiefs. We're talking about the Bucs and Commanders. So let's dive into it. I want to ask you first the question that's on everyone's mind. Because it all starts with him, Jayden Daniels. How has he looked throughout training camp? How has he looked throughout joint practices? And is he as advertised as a number 2 selection in the NFL draft?
Yeah, I mean, so far, like he's checked every block. Like you want a guy who's passionate about the game. You know, he checks that block. He's the first guy in the building. He's super hyper motivated and prepared. He's having a blast out on the practice field. He's out there early, throwing passes or playing basketball, which has become kind of a unique storyline as well at times. And he's staying after. And one of the things that veteran wide receiver Terry McLaurin even pointed out, he's like, what's really impressive is we're going through mandatory mini camp and we're going through OTAs. And after a rep is done or after our team set is done, he's coming over to me and saying, hey, Terry, on this route, you did this. I thought you were going to do that. Or I was looking for this. Or what were you looking for? And we're talking about it. And then he says, cool, after practice, can we do that a couple more times? And this is the rookie quarterback going to the veteran, the established guy in the locker room saying like, hey, I want to work on this with you and we need to get this right. And just kind of how he's been, throughout. He wants to be prepared for everything that's coming and he wants to be as ready as he possibly can because he knows that's what's going to make him successful, but also what's going to make the team successful. And what it's led into is there's not a single moment that he's been on the field yet where we've looked at him and said, okay, that caught him by surprise, right? And that includes the joint practices against the New York Jets, which, I've been on record saying like the Jets won that practice. They definitely did, but it wasn't because Jayden Daniels wasn't prepared or Jayden Daniels was flustered or, well, it was just a rookie day for Jayden. Like overall, Jayden actually looked pretty solid. There were just a lot of other things going on, including your top 3 offensive tackles not being available for the practice. And then the Miami Dolphins joint practice. Again, you're going up against an unscouted defense that's giving you looks they're not going to give anybody else in the preseason because nobody can watch that tape. And he's still throwing, 6 touchdown passes in a red zone drill. So he's just looked super comfortable, super ready for the moment. Nothing has been too big for him yet. And that's been great to see. We'll see if that sticks in the regular season now that it actually counts and the stats are recorded and the game is going to be in the win-loss column. But so far, yeah, man, he's been everything you want. And watching him run half speed on the practice field, That dude is fast because at half speed he's fast. So I can't wait to see him run full speed.
That kind of sets up my next question here. We talked to Bucs defensive line coach and co-defensive coordinator Casey Rogers yesterday, and he said you turn on the LSU tape and it's sickening.
Yeah.
With the rookie quarterback, especially one that can run, sometimes there's moments where, especially I'm sure going against the Todd Bowles defense, where he's going to disguise the heck out of things, and Jayden's not going to know what he's looking at sometimes until things are right there. Is there concern that he'll lean on those legs a little bit too much? I think we even saw it with Lamar last night a little bit, just with some young offensive linemen with Lele and some of those guys, just kind of like I'm just going to go because I don't trust my offensive line. And obviously this is an offensive line that hasn't taken a pass pro rep at all together throughout training camp. And I want to say probably the first time was mandatory mini camp was the last time that they all kind of, and that's just basic install. So is there the concern that he's going to miss some things because he's going to get erratic and lean on his legs?
So I don't think there's a concern that he might lean on his legs because I think everybody understands that his legs are part of what he does, right? But he's more of a Patrick Mahomes type of running quarterback than he is a Lamar Jackson type of running quarterback. And that, Lamar Jackson, I mean, honestly, I thought I wasn't counting as we went, but as we were watching that game last night, to find out he only had 16 carries, I literally said to myself, only 16 carries. I was like, he might be up like 22, 23 carries, right? Like he straight up was putting the cape on and trying to say, I'm Captain Ravens and I'm going to save the day here. But the difference there is like Jayden's not going to be asked to do that. And the good thing there is there's going to be opportunities. And I wouldn't be surprised, let's say there is a look that the Buccaneers throw at Jayden that kind of freezes him. He's like, okay, I don't know where to go with the ball. So he throws it away or he does take off. I would anticipate Cliff Kingsbury probably being like, all right, let's dial up a screen. Let's dial up a quick hitter right over here where it kind of doesn't matter what games they're playing in the secondary as long as you make sure nobody's standing in the way of the ball, right? Or let's dial up some runs, kind of let him take a step back from that, breathe from it a little bit, maybe get a little bit in the headset and kind of say, hey, dude, just chill out a little bit. We'll come back to it and do those kinds of things. I wouldn't be surprised if you kind of see that kind of a thing happen. But the concern with Jayden as a runner is actually just not is he going to run too much, but is he going to run too aggressively, right? And we saw Lamar doing a lot of that yesterday, dropping his shoulder into defenders, and that is not something I'm pretty sure that the Baltimore Ravens coaching staff had a conversation with Lamar after the game and then even into today and going on to the week and saying hey, dude, we love you, we get it, but don't do that as much. You know what I mean? And Jayden Daniels is going to be in an even bigger situation because the advantage that Lamar has is he knows what he's taking on when he takes that on, and he's built his body for it, and he's prepared. And Jayden, his first NFL hit is going to be his first NFL hit. And then to your point, the official starting offensive line has not taken a competitive snap together yet. To this day, has yet to take an actual competitive rep together. But the thing with the injury report, I expect Cornelius Lucas actually to be the starting left tackle this weekend. And that starting five, so the other starting four, your left, right guard, center, and right tackle, and Cornelius Lucas as the left tackle, they have taken some competitive reps. So there's at least some consistency and some experience there. So I think in a weird way, even though Brandon Coleman did and does look better when he's on the field, does look better than Cornelius Lucas, Luke does have that veteran experience and all that stuff. So there's a little bit of a stabilizing factor there. So it's going to be interesting, but I do think that the coaching staff has some things in mind so that if Jayden starts to get a little bit squirrely, let's pull the reins back a little bit and let's kind of just breathe and just simplify things. The tricky part then is a guy like Antoine Winfield Jr. sniffs that out and says, "Oh, that's a fun tunnel screen you're trying to execute there. I think I'll take that myself." So you still got to be careful. It's not like it's easy, but I do think that they kind of have this they probably have this little mini package. I don't know if it's official, but this little mini pocket of plays to say, okay, Jayden's getting a little rattled. Let's kind of go to these things that we know that he's comfortable with.
Speaking of comfortable with, you put me into a great segue here for one of our sponsors here at the Power Parlay, Homage Clothing Company. They are amazing clothing company out there that specializes in extra comfy clothes that is high quality looks, repping sports, pop culture, and more legendary moments. Learn more about Homage with the link in the description. They've got awesome clothes over there, super soft, super comfortable. They've got the Baker Angry Runs. They've got the old NBA Jam shirts with Baker and Mike Evans. So much more. Throwback, Bucko Bruce, modern day, everything you can find over at Homage. Check them out with the link in the description down below. I do want to ask you, staying on the offensive side, everyone knows who Terry McLaurin is, right? Everybody
Yeah.
knows him. And is he underrated? I think there is. I mean, people know him, but has he truly gotten the recognition I think he has playing with some of the quarterbacks? He has what he's been able to do. 3 straight years of over 1,000 yards. Came really close. I think it was 18 yards shy his rookie season.
Yeah.
And he's just been kind of a stud. But outside of him, who do the Bucs need to worry about as far as the receiving core? They've got Steady Eddie, Jamison Crowder. I know they picked up Noah Brown off of after he was released by the Texans. They've got Tampa native Byron Pringle on the roster as well. And then they have a couple guys that are younger guys too. Who's the guys to watch out for the Bucs?
Yeah, I don't know if there's one guy in the receiver room outside of Terry McLaurin that you just got to be scared of, right? I think that when you see, or if you see a second receiver kind of emerge and be like, okay, this is a guy who ended up having a really good day, whether it be one of those guys like Alumni Zacchaeus, who obviously has some familiarity with Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers from his days in Atlanta. Like, I think it's going to come from scheme, and it's going to come from Jayden Daniels' ability, honestly, to just to extend plays, right? As he extends plays, these guys have been harping on, and I know every NFL team says they harp on it, but we've seen some NFL teams say they harp on it, and then players are just standing around while the quarterback is running loose. And then we see teams like the Washington Commanders so far where, even if Jayden is scrambling to the right side of the field, the receiver all the way on the left side is staying alive in case, hey, you might want to come back to me, or you might scramble this way, or maybe I can work my way over to you and get into a window. So because of that, I think that's where you'll see a guy like maybe Alumni Zacchaeus get loose. Another guy that could surprise people, Luke McCaffrey. Like, when he was drafted out of Rice, a lot of people said, oh, great, the Washington Commanders have themselves a big slot. But Luke has been worked on every single position in the wide receiver room. And he's been worked on the perimeter. He's been the X. He's been in the slot, of course. He's doing all kinds of good stuff there. And honestly, he looks very comfortable. And going back to that joint practice against the Miami Dolphins, again, unscouted look, so you don't know what to expect from the secondary. And you're going up against veterans like Kendall Fuller and things like that. Not the greatest defense in the NFL, right? But it's still a solid group. And Luke McCaffrey was one of those receivers that got himself wide open in the back corner of the end zone for a touchdown catch from Jayden Daniels. So he's a guy who very little experience relatively as a wide receiver, but he's actually done a good amount and been very impressive for that lack of experience. And if he's someone that the Bucs maybe don't see coming, then potentially he can get away with maybe like 2 or 3 big plays that either get a crucial first down or maybe a touchdown where they're kind of thinking that somebody else is going to be the weapon there, And then tight end Zach Ertz has been incredibly effective. I think one of our Bucs Game Day members has been listening to my show because you drafted Zach Ertz, and you're the first person in any league that I'm in that's actually drafted Zach Ertz before me, because I have been routinely drafting Zach Ertz with my last pick in every fantasy draft I do to be my backup tight end. And you're the first one. So I appreciate the listen. And it's a very smart pickup because Zach has been really great for Jayden in training camp. Nobody has seen him in the preseason, which is why he's getting slept on so much, because you're not seeing it. But Zach Ertz, like, he looks like 28 years old. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, he looks 28 years old. Certainly doesn't look like someone who's been in the league as long as he has. And he's familiar with Cliff Kingsbury, and he's really been helping Jayden Daniels get comfortable. So he's going to have opportunities. And again, if Jayden is extending plays, that puts those second level defenders in a really bad situation. You either pursue the quarterback or you stay home in your coverage, and either decision has a potential ramification to be negative. And if they leave their coverage assignment and leave a guy like Zach Ertz open, Jayden Daniels is going to know how to find him.
Yeah, I took him in both of my leagues actually, and I did get the heads up by you. I also I've also got someone in my back pocket that feeds me some useful tips and tricks here and there, and he told me, hey,
oh, I know you're talking about. Yeah,
you might want to take a look at Zach Ertz. So I never drafted a number 2 tight end, but I've got Dave Njoku in both leagues too. So I'm like, just in case, I'm gonna grab Zach Ertz as well. But sticking on the offense before we head over to the defensive side of the ball, they brought in another running back too to this offense. Brian Robinson Jr. was a guy last year. Antonio Gibson was his main backup. Now they have Austin Eckler, who at one point in the league was, destined to be really good and had some contract issues going on with the Chargers. Then he gets injured.
Yep.
And then the Commanders snake him for, I think less than $5 million on a contract. Obviously, he's known for his usage as a receiver out of the backfield. But what do you expect the split to be like? Robinson came on more known as a more hard-nosed physical runner, but really came on as a receiver last year. Had, I think, over 347 yards, something like that, through the air. What do you expect the split to be like? Is it going to be more of Austin Eckler, that third down role, coming in for receiving reps? Is he going to get some reps on first and second down? What do you expect that split to be like between the two?
Yeah, it is going to be kind of a rotational relationship there, but I think Brian Robinson is your primary guy. I think probably overall is probably going to be like a 65-35 split, right? But you might have games where, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see, honestly, a game or two where Austin Eckler out touches Brian Robinson, just kind of depending on the matchup and what's going on and how everything's happening. You know what I mean? But Brian Robinson is the primary guy. Throughout the training camp preseason period, the Commanders' unofficial depth chart actually had 2 running back slots and had each of those guys at the top of each slot, right? But now they've whittled it down to 1, and Brian Robinson's that top guy, and that's matches what we've seen in practices and all those things. And like you said, like B-Rob really showed his underrated receiving ability last year, and I think they're going to be able to expand on that a little bit. So Austin is certainly going to provide, something. I don't think like every third down he'll be the guy in there, or every passing third down he'll be the guy in there. And honestly, he's actually looked really good as a runner against some of these physical defenses in joint practices and even in the preseason. So, I mean, the good thing is you have 2 backs that when they're on the field, if a coaching staff on the other side of the other sideline is saying, oh, well, that guy's on the field, that means they're doing this, you're going to get caught in a couple of situations. And obviously that's what every offensive coordinator wants, is the ability to keep guys fresh, rotate guys, but still be able to do everything in your playbook. And I think both those guys can really do that. And obviously with Jayden Daniels, if the Bucs get a lead, not just, going beyond week 1, like if the Commanders ever have a lead, I think you're going to see a lot of running backs coming from even Jeremy McNichols, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, as the third running back. Like, if they can play from ahead for an entire, period, like score first drive and stay ahead the rest of the game, you might see each of those running backs get 5-6 carries or 5-6 touches each. And then obviously, you have the top heavy guys.
Yeah, so kind of hot hand rotation. Whoever's got it going on then and there will be fed. That makes a lot of sense. Kind of Bull said something similar about Rachaad White. But then Cohen came out and said, no, it's his show. But, we'll see how that split gets divvied up. I think that's more of like a 75-25 split, or a 70-25-5 with Sean Tucker getting in there. But I expect it to be Rashaad's backfield. A little bit more question marks. That's what made me pause. That's what made me pause a little bit when it came to drafting Austin Eckler. He kind of slipped in our draft quite a bit. He was available late. And I'm like, I like Brian Robinson. I just don't know. So, but it'll be interesting to see what he does, especially against the Bucs, because I think one of the things that the Bucs are going to have to do is make sure they're keeping contained on Jayden Hare because of Daniels' ability to move, but also those check downs that he can hit with the Robinson. You can't be. They've got to be smart aggressive, is what I'm calling it. Because
and you're going to see 2-back sets too. You have a mobile quarterback like Jayden, 2-back set pass play. You run one running back, chip them and then run them up the middle for a route or whatever. You run, the other guy, probably Austin, on a flare, a wheel route or something around the left side. And then you run a crossing route from the right side, potentially clear out running space for Jayden around that right end. I mean, there's a lot of things they can do here, really just limited to Cliff Kingsbury's creativity, which I know a lot of people have criticized his lack of creativity in the past, and also, confidence in Jayden to understand the entire playbook.
Let's move on to the defensive side because changes galore over here. You look at the steady Eddies right there, Darren Payne and Josh Allen in the middle, but they've revamped pretty much the entire front seven. Helen Farrell's brought over from Oakland or Los Angeles, Las Vegas, wherever the heck the Raiders play nowadays. Dorrance Armstrong's brought over from the Cowboys with Dan Quinn and the defensive coordinator there. Dante Fowler Jr. is brought in. Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, all these guys are brought in from, to kind of reinforce this defensive front seven. They draft Jazon Newton early. They bumped Jamin Davis from inside linebacker out to a defensive end, outside linebacker kind of hybrid role. What is the biggest change and what should the Bucs be worried about when it comes to this front seven? And how quickly do you think they'll be able to gel via communication and kind of just on the same page where they become a real could they become a real factor starting on Sunday?
I think there is a chance that they're a real factor on Sunday, and I think that when you ask me like what the biggest change is, all the roster changes that you just mentioned, even keeping the same guys but moving them to different positions, are indicative of the new approach that this defense is going to have under Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., who both came from Dallas, and that's super aggressive. You're going to have a lot of blitzing. You're going to have a lot of variety in how the blitzes work, stunts, twists, games, all that stuff. Like expect to see 5 dudes standing up on the line of scrimmage. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of them may actually come, or they all may drop. Like, you know what I mean? It's going to be a very Todd Bowles-esque type of approach. So the good news there is Baker Mayfield and the Bucs offense practices against that all the single time. So they've seen it, they know it, they're comfortable with it. So the Commanders, like, it's actually one of those situations where their amount of aggression is not going to really take this opponent by surprise. It's just a matter of trying to get, just like every defense coordinator is, can we get Baker Mayfield to hold the ball a half a tick longer so that either our pass rush gets home on time, or the ball comes out late. And of course, when balls come out late, that's when interceptions can happen, or at least PBUs and things like that. So that's really going to be the trick. Is the aggression is normal. It's the way that you design the aggression. And that's where some of these other moves come. Jamin Davis is very much kind of playing that quote unquote Micah Parsons role. It's not going to be a Dallas Cowboys carbon copy defense by any means, but like that's kind of the type of outside linebacker defensive end that he is for this team. But also, Fowler is kind of the same type of guy, while Cleveland Farrell has more of a run stopping, set the edge type of value to him. And Dorrance Armstrong, he's the guy that honestly I'm most excited to see outside of Frankie Louvu on this defense. And Dorrance is someone that, on a per snap basis with the Dallas Cowboys had the best sack production of any player on that team. The issue there is the amount of snaps he's taking are not very high. So the question now is, with the increased volume of work, can you continue to produce at, not necessarily the same level, because that would be a near record setting level. You don't want to expect that from a guy, but can you at least produce to a point where you maybe do become one of the better, or one of the surprise pass rushers in the NFL this season? So that's certainly the hope for him. Joe Witt Jr. talked about it. It's very reminiscent of like Shaq Barrett when he came to Tampa, where, Broncos fans kind of knew, like, this guy's Shaq. He's got potential. He's got ability. And when he's on the field, usually he's making a play somewhere. He's just never had the chance. Dorrance Armstrong now is going to get his chance. And the benefit he has that Shaq didn't have is he's doing it in a system that he's very familiar with, and coaching staff that he knows very well as well. So we'll see if he has that type of an impact. I mean, he's a defensive end as well, not an outside linebacker. So we'll see if that impact is there. But yeah, out of all those guys, he's the guy I'm most looking forward to watching. And of course, Frankie Louvu, because, second level high energy linebackers are just fun to watch, even when they're not great locker room guys.
And that's what I want to ask about too. And for everyone just joining us, we are here on Pirate Parlay Podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm your host, JC Allen. I'm joined with Locked On Commanders Game Day, Bucs Game Day writer, podcast host, and reporter, analyst, everything under the same producer, you name it. He does it, David Harrison. And I wanted to ask about Frankie Louvu, because Bucs fans are pretty familiar with him over the last couple of years with the Carolina Panthers, and he goes over to Washington. What do you expect out of him? I mean, is he going to his role going to change? Is it going to be similar? Obviously, back-to-back 110-plus tackle seasons. He's been getting after the quarterback at a much higher clip. I think 7.5 last year, 5.5 the year before. What can Bucs fans expect? Same old Frankie Louvu, or are they going to use him in a different way?
I mean, it's the same Frankie Louvu, right? But I think where the differences are going to come in is, I think this defense is going to be more geared towards getting him free, right? And getting him those open looks. Whereas like the Carolina Panthers were always trying to get like Brian Burns, they're trying to get him open and trying to get him his lanes and all that stuff. Like there's going to be a little bit more design here for Frankie Louvu to get, to be the kind of the feature guy of the unit. And I think he's playing around better people. Like Bobby Wagner is obviously a future Hall of Famer going in. So, whatever physical ability he's got left, that's going to be a benefit. Again, we mentioned Dorrance Armstrong on the outside. If he can become a legit threat to where teams have to kind of double team him or chip him regularly, and then John Allen, Daron Payne do what they do on the inside, like you're already kind of starting to run out of people that are going to be able to stop people. So if Frankie Louvu's coming in, from the right, the left, the middle, like, on a delay or whatever it is, it kind of makes you, focus on your own backfield a little bit. And of course, there's two objectives here, right? The first objective is pressure, sack, and rattle the quarterback. But even if you can't do that, force the team to leave in a tight end, leave in a running back. Best case scenario, make them run 11 all day and keep both those guys in, because now your quarterback just has fewer options and you're better off in coverage. But, Frankie, Dorrance Armstrong, obviously penetration up the middle. I think those are like the three main catalysts to this Washington Commanders pass rush this year. And if their games and everything they're going to do there can facilitate those three parts having an impact, then I think you're going to see a very excited Frankie Louvu. I mean, there's a potential there, not giving away anything from like training camp or anything, but like Deron Payne and John Allen kind of split that middle. Yeah, it's kind of split that middle of the line, and Frankie Louvu just runs through the open door, right into the face of a quarterback. And I think that's probably Joe Witt Jr.'s dream right there.
Nice. And then the secondary, just kind of wrap this up, and then we'll kind of get your thoughts on the outcome of the game. But secondary brings back a lot of the players that were there last year. Benjamin St-Juste, Emmanuel Forbes, and Quan Martin all return. Of course, the newcomers are former Panther. Joining Louvu is Jeremy Chin, and then rookie Mike Shanistro, who they took out of Michigan in the second round. They struggled last year, to put it lightly. But do you think that experience that they got, I'm talking, of course, about Ben St-Juste, Forbes, and Quan Martin, Quan now moving from nickel to free safety, how do you think that's helped them? How do you think the additions have helped them? And do you expect this secondary to be more competitive, or do you still expect them to struggle? And should the Bucs target them early and often to kind of test where they're at, and maybe even with a deep ball in that first drive to kind of say, hey, we're going to come at you?
I mean, I would, you turn on the tape from last year, you have no reason not to, honestly. But I do think that there's a benefit to what's happening in Washington for even those guys who are returning from the NFL's worst secondary last year. And to a certain extent, like, are they going to get better? Like, they almost have to. Like, they can't get worse, right? Because there's not an expansion team. So you're definitely not going to get worse this season. But how much better are you going to get? I think their motivation is at an all-time high, certainly increased, because I think they're finally seeing, like, okay, this is what NFL coaching is. Like, this is what I thought I was getting when I entered the league. And for Ben St-Juste, it's almost more frustrating because he entered the league with a great defensive backs coach named, Chris Harris, who ended up leaving Washington a couple of years ago, going to the Tennessee Titans and doing his thing. He's a future defense coordinator in this league, and they weren't able to keep him on staff for whatever reason. But Ben St-Juste under Chris Harris was really elevating, right? He was on the rise, looking like a really good, legitimate, potential NFL starting cornerback for a long time. And then the wheels just kind of fell off the entire operation, not just for Ben, but for everybody. And then for a rookie like Emmanuel Forbes, who, in my opinion, is playing the second toughest position to transition from college to the NFL in, which is cornerback. Like, when you don't have solid coaching and you don't have a scheme that you can really fit in and trust in, that's really hard to ask anybody to do. And Quan Martin, same thing, kind of struggled in the nickel early on, but like, name me a slot corner that can man up against Tyreek Hill in the slot with no top coverage and not get burned. You know what I mean? So right. It's like, yeah, you see number 20 in Burgundy running down the field, trying to chase down a Miami Dolphins receiver on a 65-yard touchdown. But again, who out there can do that on their own? And that's the situation he's been put in, right? So when Quan moved to free safety, he got a lot more comfortable. He looked a lot better. This year, you just kind of hope that increase in coaching ability improves with these guys. But yeah, man, I mean, if you turn on the tape last year from the secondary, you really have no reason not to go after Emmanuel Forbes. You have no reason not to go after Benjamin St-Juste. And with Emmanuel, especially when he's in press coverage, because his punch hasn't been very effective through his first year in the NFL. So he's not really getting receivers off their line. And honestly, he's kind of opening up in the wrong direction against that press coverage and giving guys the outside angle and letting them get upfield on him. And then when the ball comes in, he's not doing a great job of getting his head turned around and getting in position to intercept the pass. So even if, if you throw up a pass there and it through the contact and through the play just kind of comes out, okay, you live to do that again. But more often than not, your guy's going to have a better opportunity to succeed. And so, yeah, for me, I mean, I'm not going to tell Liam Cohen how to do his job, but for me, I'm probably dialing up a big shot on play number 1, to be quite honest with you. Just kind of either see if we can get it to land, or even if we don't get it to land, just let them know we've seen it. We know you're still there and we're coming.
Absolutely. Let's get into this game now. Some of this matchup talk right here, and then we'll get you out of here. I just want to ask your opinion here. If the Washington Commanders are going to win, they have done. Let's fast forward crystal ball. They did what on offense?
On offense, they protected Jayden Daniels. Like if they win this game, the story, one of the biggest stories coming out is going to be how well they protected Jayden, and not necessarily just from an O-line standpoint, but also from a schematic standpoint, right? We talked about on the Hear the Cannons podcast about Yaya Diaby and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, and I know you're higher on Joe and his potential this year than I am, and that's fair. But if Yaya comes out there and takes advantage of either a rookie left tackle or Cornelius Lucas, whoever gets to start, then start rolling the pocket away from him. Start, getting Jayden out there, start throwing chips on Yaya and make Joe Tryon-Shoyinka prove that he's, the J.C. Allen is correct. If not, then you take advantage of that opportunity over there, put him in those kind of do or die situations we talked about where he's got to make a decision to pursue the fast quarterback and leave a receiver open, or stay with the receiver, potentially open the door for Jayden to gain leverage with his legs. So I think, and then Jayden not taking unnecessary hits, right? That's like the biggest thing for Jayden as a runner is get down when the play is over, get out of bounds when the play is over. Don't take these unnecessary hits that can potentially create a problem. And that's the key, I think, to this Commanders offense, being able to score enough to keep up with the Bucs.
The Washington Commanders win on Sunday if the defense does this to the Bucs.
Yeah, if the secondary impresses everybody, if the secondary proves all of us wrong, because we're all like that's the tipping point, right? That's the concern. Like, it's really weird, man. Like with as little as this offensive line has gotten to do what they need to do together, and the fact that you may be starting the season with your backup left tackle, the concern is not there, which is probably where it should be. The concern is with the secondary. So if this secondary is what we fear it could be, the Bucs are going to run away with this thing. Like if the secondary is as bad as it was last year, the Bucs are not coming out of there with anything less than 31 points. And I don't think that's fair to ask Jayden Daniels in a new offense and all this stuff to keep up with that type of a production output. So if the Bucs win, or if the Commanders win, then I think the Bucs are not scoring any more than 24 points. And even that, like if they scored 24, I think, they probably still win this game. But like if the Commanders win, the Bucs can't score more than 24. If they don't score more than 24, then there's a possibility there, a likelihood even, I would say, that, this secondary was able to stifle Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, et cetera, better than we expected.
Biggest matchup you've got circled?
Brian Robinson against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers front, not just as a runner, but also as a receiver. Because again, like if he can leak out there and get in space, again, he's got underrated burst, he's got underrated speed. He's not a burner, don't get me wrong, but he does have some ability that a lot of people don't realize he has. And if he gets the opportunity to open that door, there's a world here where Brian Robinson, if the Bucs defense is super stout and smart, and that I think a lot of that's going to start with Levante, especially on the second level, where Brian Robinson comes away with like 60 yards total offense and the Bucs win this thing. But I think there's also a world where Brian Robinson comes out with like 135 yards of offense and the Commanders are in it or have the opportunity to pull off an upset. So I think B-Rob really is, and kind of by connection, Austin Eckler as well, right? Those running backs, those are the biggest parts of this.
All right, and then to wrap it up before we get you out of here, finally, score prediction, player of the game.
Yeah, I do have the Bucs winning 24-21. Like I said, I think that 24-point line, like I think that's kind of the floor. And I don't know that the Commanders, there's just it's one thing to look smooth, confident, controlled when you're playing incredibly vanilla defenses. It's a whole other thing to do it for 60 minutes when you're playing Todd Bowles' defense. And I know there's this like stigma of Todd against rookie quarterbacks, but honestly, the most yards rushing he's given up to a rookie quarterback has been 38 yards. Like that's not that bad. And when you look at like Desmond Ridder beating a, Tom Brady started game, but not really played game. And you look at kind of some of the other circumstances, there's a game there where the Bucs defense gave up 20 points and they lost to Kenny Pickett and the Steelers. Like, I don't know, man. In the NFL, if your defense gives up 20 points, you should probably win that game when you have Tom Brady at quarterback. So I put that more on the offense than the defense. Anyway, so basically what I'm saying is don't buy the hype that Todd Bowles doesn't know how to defend rookie quarterbacks. I don't think it's everything that it's been cracked out to be. So, I think that's probably the outcome. The spread is 3.5, or at least it was when I made my score prediction. So I'm going to kind of keep it within that range, but I could easily see this thing being like 31-21 Bucs. And I know some of our folks over Commander Game Day actually predict like a 31-21 outcome. I could certainly see that happening as well.
Awesome. David, I appreciate you so much. Go ahead, promote yourself. Where can they find you on X, all your work, everything like that?
Yeah, so on Twitter, it's dharrison82, commandergameday.com, covering the Washington Commanders. I do some writing for bucksgameday.com, obviously, and then Locked On Commanders 5 days a week. And actually now, if you're a DMV local, WUSA9.com, actually, I'm writing for them as well, doing a little freelance work there for the local news station.
Awesome. Appreciate you as always. Talk to you this weekend.
Yes, sir. See you then.
Later. There you guys have it. We got David Harrison in the building. I'm going to do a quick promo read here for our newest sponsor. So happy to have them. Then I'll get into my keys of the game and my score prediction before wrapping it up with Bucs Cruise as well. So I want to give a shout out to our newest sponsor here, Mosley Heating and Air. They're great service, guys. If you're in the Tampa area and you need any repairs, a new system, a maintenance plan, you're gonna want to reach out to Mosley Heating and Air. When Florida heat hits you hard, trust Mosley Heating and Air to keep you cool and comfortable. With over 25 years of experience, their family-owned business knows what it takes to keep your home and HVAC system running smoothly, especially through these hot summer months. We've got a few of them left, almost into that cool weather. Come November, we'll be in a much better place. But hey, if you need heating, that's when you're going to reach out to them too. Need a repair, new system maintenance plan, they've got you covered. Call Mosley Heating and Air today at 813-230-3742 or visit mosleyheatingandair.com. Mosley Heating and Air, where comfort meets reliability. Check them out for sure. They're doing great stuff in the Tampa Bay community. All over there, they'll service you guys. So, that being said, my keys to the game, if you guys have been paying attention, all week I've been writing my kind of a preview broken up into different pieces. I start with my matchup history, and the Bucs so far are 13-12, or the Commanders rather are 13-12 over the Bucs. This will be either a game tying matchup in their matchup history, or they'll just fall down another game. But the last game was a loss, actually, and that was in 2021 during the regular season. But they did have a win prior to that, as all of you guys probably know. That divisional round playoff game in 2021 was the last time they won, but they've lost 2 out of the last 2 or 3, or they've lost 3 of 5. So they're 2-3 over the last 5 games played. So this game will bring them back to 500, 3-3 in their last 6 games, and it will also bring them to 500 in the series. So, but we're previewing matchup history where the Commanders were last year, what they looked like. Obviously very different with Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, and Sam Howell at quarterback compared to this year. So that comes out every Wednesday. Thursday, we put out our top players on offense and defense to watch out for. So I talked about guys that the Bucs will need to handle, and Terry McLaurin, Sam Cosmi, their right guard, who just got paid, Brian Robinson, as you just heard David Harrison talk about, and then on defense, of course, Frankie Louvu, Darren Payne, and Jonathan Allen. So make sure you guys are checking those out. Those will come out weekly, every week. And then my keys to cannon fire, we'll get into that because that's what I've got coming out next here. And that's going to be number 1 is containing Jayden Daniels. I think if the Bucs can contain Jayden Daniels, like I said to David, smart aggression, right? They're going to be aggressive because it's the Bulls defense, but you got to be smart about it. If they can contain Jayden Daniels and still get pressure on him and make sure he's not busting out for big runs, then I think the Bucs are going to be in a good situation, a good scenario. They'll use other guys, in a variety of different ways, blitzing and getting after him, bringing the pressure from all over the field. But as long as they can contain him and not let it, he's going to get his. So, I don't expect him to get, a 10+ yard run here or there, or 1 or 2 of them. But for the most part, you got to make sure you're keeping contained. My second key to the game is exactly what I just asked David about. Test early and often that young secondary. If they don't take a deep shot in that first drive, I will be shocked. David said the first play. I will be shocked. It's going to help you do so many things. It's going to say, hey, we're coming for you. If they can ISO Mike up and get a deep shot where he's on man-to-man coverage on one-on-one, if that doesn't connect, at least it's going to say, hey, you can't do that for the rest of the game. You got to take that person. You got to take that safety, and you got to cover Mike up with your cornerback, which is going to open up things for the other receivers. And that deep shot's going to open up things for the running game too, because you're not going to be able to load the box up. You're not going to be able to. And I know with guys like Louvu and Wagner and Allen and Payne, that might not be the game plan anyways, because they might feel like with those 4, they have enough to kind of not use extra resources in the running game because they're all great run defenders. So, but, just getting that deep shot out of the way, kind of says, all right, if you were thinking about bringing anybody else down here, you're going to need to defend the back half of the field and divert extra resources into maybe helping with coverage with Godwin in the slot, or Jalen McMillan, or Cade Otton, or one of these guys too. And don't forget, the Bucs have 2 great receiving backs. Rashad White has proved it. Bucky Irving has looked good so far. So they're going to have to take care of those guys as well. And then my third key to the game is you got to start fast. You can't. Last year, they didn't have a single first drive possession touchdown. You can't have that this year. Not just because you can't get behind early to a Washington team that you probably shouldn't fall behind to, but because you got to get that confidence. You've got to build that up. So you know that at any time, any place, you can take that ball and move it down the field in the opening possession of games. It got to the point last year where it was something that got really frustrating for the offense. Like, and you can't have that linger into this year, especially with a matchup against the Lions looming next week, with matchups against the Ravens, the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Cowboys. You got to be able to start off quick, and you got to do it, I think, this game to get that kind of over that hump. Like, hey, we couldn't do this last year. They kept on asking about it. Now they're going to go in and, another week, can't score in the first possession. What do you guys have to do? Just get it out of the way, score, start fast, build that lead up fast, and make the Commanders have to play catch up to you. And that will allow you to play your game in a different style than if you're trying to play catch up and kind of establish what you want to do. So those are my keys to the game. And I think if the Bucs follow those three keys, I think it's going to be a bonus key. I'll give you a bonus key too. Get pressure. Get that pressure going early and often, especially if it's Brandon Coleman on that rookie side, that rookie left tackle. Get that pressure. Test him early and often and kind of make him really sink or swim out there as a rookie who hasn't had any reps in the preseason. And then Vita, their center, Tyler, I can never say his name. Tyler Biadasz, I don't know. He's the same center that was with the Cowboys that Vita Vea just absolutely embarrassed and destroyed. So on multiple times. So get that pressure early up the gut. Get that pressure early against the rookie left tackle. He's out there. I think that's going to be key too. But again, smart pressure, smart aggressive pressure. So where you're not leaving yourself on an island and being exposed because Jayden's got wheels if he decides to turn and run it away because you're not playing contain while you're pressuring. So I think that's going to be a huge thing. And if they do that, I think the Bucs win this handily. I'm kind of going in the 20s as well. I know week one's weird because everyone's kind of rusty and kind of getting their footing together, but I think the Bucs have enough. And again, this secondary is what really scares me. And I think the Bucs passing game is obviously far and ahead of better of where the running game is right now going into the season. Potentially that catches up, right? We've seen glimpses of it in the preseason, but if you had to bet on one thing right now, the Bucs passing game and the running game, you're going with the passing game. I think they can take advantage of that secondary to get some points on the board. So I got them winning 27 to 17, a 10-point victory there for the Buccaneers to start their season at home with a nice win, with a nice victory Monday coming up right after that. So that's going to kind of do it for us here. We got an in-depth preview. We'll be doing this every week. We'll have a guest on either Tuesday, maybe a player guest, or maybe a local writer, or maybe it'll just be myself. We'll do that every Tuesday, and then here on every Friday, we will get, or Tuesday or Wednesday. It kind of depends. Players' days are off days on Tuesday, so just turn the reminders on so you know when I'm going live or when we're posting a show. I wish I could have a more dialed in schedule, but it's football season everywhere. For my son, he's got practices Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. So normally last year we do Tuesdays and Thursdays, but that's been kind of out of whack. So, but if I got to do a Tuesday show to get a player on to accommodate, to get you guys some insight from one of the Bucs players, I'm going to kind of switch that around. But, and then Fridays we'll have this one out with someone that covers boots on the ground, with a writer, reporter, podcaster that covers the other team, so we can get an in-depth look like we did with David Harrison today. And we'll do that every week. Kind of, if you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter if there's something specific you'd like to know, or ask in the chat. Always, you guys are more than welcome to be part of the show. I appreciate everyone here. But yeah, just turn on reminders just to be safe. Make sure you're subscribing. That way you guys don't miss a show. You can always watch the recap as well, as always, too. But we're going to wrap this up with our good friends over at Tampa Bay Buccaneers Cruise. So excited for this one. Just talked to some of the players who haven't been announced yet that are super excited to go here. So, guys, if you haven't got your tickets, I'm telling you, get them now. Especially it's Friday today. It's payday. Go on Tampa Bay Buccaneers Cruise.com. Put your down payment down. You can make down payments all the way up, I think, to December 4th or 11th, one of those dates. So you can make payments on it. Maybe you want to bring the wifey or the hubby or the kids on a cruise for Christmas if they're at that age where they don't need all the extra stuff, and you can be like, hey, we're going on a cruise for Christmas. That's what we're doing. Look into it. I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun. There's so much going on there. It's between March 7th and March 10th this year, hitting Key West and Bimini, Bahamas. Join your fellow crew members and Bucs players: Jordan Whitehead, Brad Johnson, Trey Palmer, Kalijah Cansey, Yaya Diaby, Luke Gedeke. You guys know the list at this point. I've said it over and over again. And if you haven't, go check it out because they're dropping new players every day. I think a certain rookie that a lot of people are excited about, other than Graham Barton, might be on there as well. So join up, sign up for this unforgettable vacation. They'll feature a variety of events. They've got bingo, they've got sail away party, trivia contest, cocktail parties where you get actual one-on-one time, not rushed through like an autograph line, player panels, water volleyball competition. I was talking to Jamel about this the other day. He's like, I could go for that three-peat because he's going to be on there too. He's going for that three-peat for the water volleyball championship. He's like, I bet you those crew members are training right now because they were a lot better year 2. They're going to come after us year 3. So we'll see what happens there. But don't miss an awesome opportunity to celebrate with your team, create lasting memories with fans and your favorite Bucs players, and kind of make memories and new friendships from Bucs fans all over the country. So as Nathan Elliott said, got to meet JC Allen. He brought a copy. I did the Lindy's draft preview for the Bucs. He brought a copy. I signed it for him. I felt like a little celebrity, signed a few autographs here and there. So I'll be on there. My old staff over at Peterport will be on there too. So a whole bunch of us in the media will be there too. So definitely check that out. While you're checking things out, again, I mentioned my articles that come out over at Bucs Game Day. We've got so much happening over there. We've got more content that we can keep up with. We want to be your go-to site for Bucs football. I know you've got tons of options here and some more established, but do me a favor, go check out Bucs Game Day. Check out our content. Favorite us, add us to your home screen. If you have an Apple phone, you can just hold it and add to home screen. So you can just click it right there. You get all our stuff, game previews, analysis, quote pieces, breakdowns. We got everything going on there. So go check that out. And as always, you guys, you know where to find me, JC Allen NFL on Twitter. But that's going to do it for us. I appreciate everyone. Again, subscribe, turn reminders on. We'll be rocking out. I'll probably do an instant reaction. Maybe a quick little pod or maybe a quick little video I'll put up after the game. We'll figure something out. I don't know, full surprises over here. But that's going to do it. I'll talk to you guys later. We got Bucs, Commanders, 4:25 on Sunday. Football's back, baby. Got more football tonight, football last night, football on Saturday. 'Tis the season. See you guys later. Peace out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.